My name is Lindis Percy. I jointly coordinate the campaign for the accountability of American bases. I have been arrested about 500 times. I have been to prison probably about 15 times. And this is my story. My mother was a physiotherapist and my father was a priest. So I grew up in a vicarage. I am the third girl of 4 children. I mean, I was born in 1941, so it was the wartime. And born in Leeds. I was always a bit of a rebel actually at school, and I found petty rules just ridiculous and really sort of rebelled against petty rules. So I was quite often in trouble. I couldn't understand these silly rules. I don't mind rules, you could have rules, but I don't like illogical rules, or just because I say so, sort of thing. My eldest sister had started nursing. My middle sister had some problems and she started nursing too. And I thought, I might as well do nursing really. So I went to Addenbrooke's, Cambridge. And I met Christopher, my husband, there. He was at St John's. And we got married in '64. And Christopher was a teacher when I first met him. We had 3 children, all born at home. And I did midwifery after the 3rd, after Anna was born. Will, Tom and Anna. So I trained at Oldham and District General Hospital. We moved to Oldham. And I worked at Southampton General Hospital. And it was really hard in the maternity unit, doing full-time midwifery and 3 children. And then bumping into Greenham Common. We had heard through a dear friend who lived up here saying, this was late 70s, 80s, that there were some not very good weapons coming to Britain. And I saw this notice on the street and it said something like, come and hear about cruise missiles tonight. And it was put on by the trade unions. And I thought, I must go to that and find out about that. So Chris and I went. And you know, it's a profound moment in life, one of the profound moments. It changed my whole direction really, or it opened up a whole sort of area of, my gosh, we're doing what? We're going to allow nuclear weapons to come to a base near where we live, well, to this country. And I thought, and the other thing to say is that I was doing midwifery. So it was very much about, here I was involved with birth, new life, and this was about death. And it was just at the time when Mrs. Thatcher started to meddle in the health service. And masses of money and police spent and resources spent on taking this convoy from Greenham Common. Sometimes it was clear that it was live weapons, other times it's probably dummy weapons. From Greenham Common to Salisbury Plain, it took about half an hour, where they practised for a nuclear war. And I couldn't believe that we were doing this. I mean, Greenham was a fascinating, difficult place, my gosh, but fascinating because, you know, the men were on the inside of the fence generally, and the women were on the outside because it became a women's campaign. We learned that the Americans were going to deploy these cruise missiles at this base up the road, and they were nuclear tipped. And so when we first got involved, which was early 80s, they had started to sort of, you know, prepare the ground, build the silos and all this. And we just tried to oppose it really, you know, there was a lot of activity of civil disobedience. And we hadn't done that sort of thing before. And I got very much involved with the law, you know, found out, well, what laws are protecting this place? And it was the whole thing of international law that was being breached. And local laws that were being used, local laws protecting these international laws that were being breached, and it didn't seem quite, you know, didn't tie up. The Campaign for the Accountability of American Bases uses the American flag as a political symbol. So, and you know, sometimes if there's rude words or offensive words, maybe, you know, that's not right, but we don't do that. We often use the word please on the end. Nice, isn't it? Please. And it's upside down, advised by an American friend who said, why don't you use it upside down? Because that's international distress call. We wouldn't burn it. I mean, I know around the world people do burn the American flag, but some of us think that that's, for us, it's a bit, you know, a bit violent. And it is very provocative, that. I mean, for some people this is provocative, to have the American flag in their eyes defaced. I was arrested at another American base, Feltwell, which is Suffolk-Norfolk borders, and I can't remember actually what the initial arrest was about, but I was eventually charged with a racially aggravated offence, which is quite unusual actually. It's a recent law that had come in. And I do remember saying to the PC who charged, because he came up with this very unusual charge, and saying to him, I don't expect that was your idea to charge with that. And actually, we were going to have some fun with it, really. I mean, a lot of these cases, I think, fantastic. You know, instead of being intimidated by them, I think, oh, that's really good. You know, the lawyer who was representing me was, I mean, we didn't have to go this far, but I think he'd got a pair of pants that he had the American flag on, you know, you sit on it. So, you know, there's all this sort of double standards about the American flag, and yet in commercial things, it's used. The American flag's used. So, anyway, we were successful in the case, and it was important that we were. We're on our way to the American base, occupied and controlled by the American military and agencies, called Menwith Hill. It's run by the National Security Agency, and we're on our way to the Tuesday night demonstration, which has been going for nearly into our 13th year, actually, every Tuesday night, 6 till 8. And how many people will come, really don't know. It may be just 2 of us. Sometimes it's been 1 of us, or sometimes last week I think it was 11 of them. I was away. And so it fluctuates very much. But people ask us, what is the point of this tiny little demonstration? And I think the answer is something around, there's still a place to demonstrate and oppose something that you're concerned about, whatever it is. And we would always say peacefully, non-violently. And also it is a way of bearing witness, just being there, and also saying to the people who work on the base, people who come and go, that tonight, once again, there are a few of us who oppose what you do. Now, the role of Menwith Hill, there are many roles, several roles to Menwith Hill. It's strategically a very, very important base, the largest intelligence gathering and surveillance base outside the US. It's a secretive, unaccountable base, American base, that is out of control of the British government. Now, the British government will say, we know everything that goes on there. We have the Intelligence Security Committee that monitors what goes on there. Not at all. The Americans are in firm control, and they have bases all around the world. And also, we were the first campaign to find out in 1997 that Menwith Hill is crucial to the American missile defence system, as is Fylingdales, which is also in Yorkshire. That is an RAF base with an American component. So here we are. These are known as radomes. They are just a skin, really, over the satellite dish which is underneath. And this base is a ground relay station. So in fact, they hoover up information from satellites going round and round and round, of which, you know, the metal hardware in space is so crowded. There used to be just a few radomes, these things here. They covered them up so that people, apparently, so that people couldn't see which direction the satellites were facing. They monitor the Middle East, so that's why they're crucial. This base is crucial in the Gulf War. They won an award. It is crucial in the invasion of Iraq. It was and still is, and it is absolutely crucial in the war conflict in Afghanistan. I went to Menwith Hill on May the 24th, 1990, and I didn't know where it was, and I remember asking somebody, and they said, you just go along there and you can't miss it, it's just in front of you. And indeed, these white domes, my goodness, what an extraordinary place. Anyway, I walked in at that stage to Menwith Hill. There was just an inner chain link fence, and you could just walk in. So I walked in with a banner. Didn't know what laws were there or anything. I just thought, I should go in here. I want to see what's going on. And bumped into a Ministry of Defence police officer, who was as surprised as I was, I think. I was in the sort of, you know, where these golf balls were, and arrested. And it was military land bylaws, first line of protection around Menwith Hill, law. And we challenged these bylaws, and we won. So no longer could anybody be arrested, charged, convicted under unsafe law. And that was another thing, another part of this, where I thought, gosh, it's these laws they're using, and actually they're unsafe. That's quite long to take liberty away under unsafe law. I got a sentence of 9 months from the High Court. I went straight from the High Court to Holloway, and it was a civil thing because it was an injunction, and I breached the injunction by stepping off an imaginary footpath, and it was all involved with trying to bring the law to account, you know, the law that was being abused. So I stepped off this imaginary footpath, and so was in breach of the injunction, and got 9 months. But this yellow line, it's a line that was painted on the road on here in about 2000. And there's always been a problem about boundaries at this base. And if you step over this imaginary line before this line was painted, then you could be, and we were arrested many times. Sometimes it was literally just half a foot over an imaginary line. So suddenly this line came in. Well, in this country we don't have yellow lines across the bases. It's an American line, but we researched it quite carefully, and because it abounds the highway, which is here, and Ministry of Defence land, which is here, they have to get permission to paint the line on the road. Well, they didn't, so really it's criminal damage. Been tested in court several times. I mean, this is an example of the sort of almost pettiness, actually. But if the abuse of the law starts here, really, and if they just, you know, they've arrested, as I say, many times over this wretched yellow line, it's still in dispute, but still they're arrested. And as I say, we tested in court several times, so the district judge said, well, I mean, you can't, I took it to the High Court once, And I lost the case, and the two judges said, you can't paint a line on the ground, Miss Percy, because it's the stuff of neighbourhood disputes. And if you think about it, you know, if you're talking about boundaries, you know, neighbours saying, no, my property starts here, another neighbour saying, no, it starts here. You know, it causes a lot of conflict in neighbourhoods about where boundaries are. So the district judge decided that it was something like 18 inches either side. So there really was, at one stage, they got out their tape measure to see where 18 inches was. So you could stand here. It's about 18 inches. And any more, arrest. Now all that, because we've really pushed it in a way. So what a nonsense this is. And as you see, I'm walking over the yellow line quite a lot tonight. Before we pushed, shoved, quite violently pushed back over the yellow line, but pursued it, and they don't do it now. They don't, you know, walk along quite a long way. This was in August 1995 at an American base called USA, United States Air Force Mildenhall, known as RAF, which they're not. Annie Rainbow is the person in the wheelchair, and we had gone to Mildenhall just to really sort of have a look around. It was quite a good thing to go and have a look at these places, just observe. And I mean, the whole thing just escalated. We were followed on a public road. On one side of the road was the admin block of the American Air Force, and on the other side was the runway. And we were on the public road, so every right to be there. And we were followed by a man called Tommy Burns, who we later learnt that was his name. And he was following us on a bike, and he had a gun on his hip. I mean, this was 1995, so things have changed a bit, but at that stage, you know, not many police had guns on the streets. And so we did object to this. I mean, don't like guns of any sort, certainly not being followed by somebody. And I warned him several times to say, look, if you continue to follow, I'm going to arrest you. Please go away. You're hassling us, and we don't, you know, you should not be on the street with guns. And so, I mean, he followed, continued to follow. So I arrested him very carefully, very gently, finger and thumb on his shirt, I'm arresting you, etc. Took his bike to all very peacefully. And what happened was, I mean, this video doesn't show the actual instance of me being thrown to the ground and handcuffed, but they set it all up to get their man out, really. And they increasingly, the Americans, just did what they like. What they should do is, if there's an incident, they should call the Ministry of Defence Police, and the Ministry of Defence Police deal with a British person. Cut a long story short, I was forced into this their car inside the base. They'd obviously called Suffolk Police, it was, the Home Office Police, who eventually arrived, and I was arrested for theft of the bike. Just absolutely manipulated, set up. And it came to court eventually. I was charged. They changed the charges 5 times, and it was in front of a stipendiary magistrate. They called them district judges now. And at the end of the case, having watched this video, it was extraordinary that they produced this video, because it totally went against them, actually. The stipendiary magistrate, his comment was, I was found not guilty. The level, duress and duration of the violence to Miss Percy was shocking. For me, the worst thing that can happen is violence to me, or annihilation of the human race. If somebody shouts at me, that's okay, really, because it's just a noise. But you know, if somebody hits me, that's not good at all. Anyway, it was Tuesday night demonstration. Lovely night. There were 3 of us. And I noticed a car coming down the road that had 4 Asian-looking guys in them. And they, as they passed, they slowed down and they said something like, "What's going on?" And I just said, "Oh, there's a demonstration going on." And they went on. And I thought to myself, you're going to be stopped because they are Asian-looking. This car came back, and by this time I was walking up Slip Road with a friend. I was talking about things, and this car came back and and just stopped and parked the wrong way, you know, just pulled over. There was nothing, it was perfectly safe. And they were asking, you know, what's going on, so we were gently telling them. Eventually the Ministry of Defence Police came along, and this officer, who I have to say I've had huge problems with. He's the sort of person, and you know, these people are dangerous in authority, and particularly in uniform. And he's perfectly pleasant, but when he can't deal with something, he just flips. And the whole incident escalated. And by this stage, there were several officers, and it was all getting, you know, but it was started off calm. We were just talking. And I had this tape recorder, and I moved, because they said, "Move out of the way," and all this. And I said, "But what, I'm talking to them." Move to the front of the car, right? And this counter-terrorism lot drew up, flashing lights, and it's all getting terribly out of hand. In court, the evidence was that it was dangerous and that it was a terrorist incident. You know, I couldn't believe this. And they were actually on just a night out from Burnley on a lovely sunny evening, and happened to pass on the A59 and wonder what this place was. Anyway, it got totally out of hand, and I was eventually arrested for obstruction of the police officers in the execution of their duty. I thought, there's nothing to say that. If anything, you police officers have obstructed the whole thing, dealt with it so badly. We had the CCTV evidence and cross-examined 9 officers, and I took each officer through very, very carefully. And they said things like, "No, I can't remember that. No." I mean, selective memory, my gosh. Just which I highly criticised the MOD at the end of it. And I just said, right, well, let's go back. Let's watch the CCTV. And it was 4 minutes this incident took. 4 minutes. And it'd taken all this time to come to court. And at the end, they finished their case. They lied. Police lied, perjured themselves. But police suggest to me that I go and have a cup of tea or take up knitting or something, which is deeply patronising, you know, even if it's made in jest. But I feel that as long as I have the energy, and I certainly have the passion and concern, that I can. You know, we each have a responsibility as individuals. Whether we can take that up or not is another matter. People have very complicated lives and struggles and, you know, hardship and poverty and all that. But you know, yes, I mean, thinking back to childhood, I mean, the good thing about private schools and, you know, my upbringing and all that, it did give me a sense of confidence and independence. And also to ask questions, actually. So, yeah, they say to me, you know, "Oh, you should give up, you know, stop climbing fences." And I think, I can still actually do that. I'm very fit, actually, you know, and as long as I'm fit and I'm blessed with good health and a passion, I think it's and sometimes it actually has to be a controlled passion too, but basically a deep concern about what's going on. So why give up, actually? Even more important these days to keep going, in my view.